Welcome everybody to Class REDACTED, the show where we delve deep into the terrifying world of SCP and focus on the more unknown parts of this universe. I am your host Ridley, once again joined by my three wonderful guests, Silver, Benson, V. Say hello everybody.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
And we're back! A week later than I originally anticipated, but me getting sick and lots of schoolwork and shit forced me to postpone the second episode to today, but now we're back with our bullshit again, which I am very happy about. And today is a special day because we are tackling our first group of interest today out of the 400 that exist. At least it feels like it. We're covering the Church of the Broken God today, one of probably the most popular group of interest there is. And it is ginormous. I have 5 pages of notes in front of me and I have to get through all of it. So I'm gonna be glossing over lots of details. Lots and lots of details. But that's not the point, because I want to get this information in a concise and understandable manner. If you want the details, go read the wiki articles. There are hundreds of them, hundreds of tales, hundreds of SCP articles to read and immerse yourself in the very, very fine details. But we're just gonna delve a little bit in there to still cover some things that most of you might not know. To start, what do you all know about the church other than they're like robot dudes? Silver, what do you know?
Well, I know that they are trying to repair a physical god. Apart from that, not really much.
Okay, Ben, same here. Same looking
Absolutely
for you?
nothing. No, I,
Okay.
I don't care about GUIs. I never read GUIs.
I know they have a cool name.
That's
it.
That's true.
The name is pretty good. I have to give you that. The naming is pretty awesome. All right, let's get into it. What is the church? What's this whole shebang about? If you've ever known about the Adeptus Mechanicus and Warhammer, you will feel right at home. They are an anomalous religious group that worship machines, mechanisms, automatons, all those things. They believe that the machine is holy and that it is the non plus ultra in forms of power and in forms of adaptability.
Praise the toaster.
Yes. They believe that flesh and organic life is weak, primarily evil and broken. They believe that flesh cannot adapt, flesh cannot survive, and that only through converting to machines that humanity will reach a new height, basically. That is their basic ideology that's going on here. Similarly to the Mechanicus, they also have a god. That god has many names. It's mainly known as the Broken God, but I will use the most recognizable name, which is Mekhane. Mekhane, the Greek word for machine, literally. And he is what he sounds like, the god of all machines. He permeates through all of them, he controls all of them, and he also makes all of them work, because Mekhane's blessing has been gifted to this machine. Why is he broken? Because it's still the Church of the Broken God. Mekhane is broken because his body parts, multiple, hundreds in fact, of his body parts, were found all across the world. They have been scattered through unknown means. It's hypothesized that he was broken apart in a fight with another god, who we will be talking more about when we talk about the Sarki cults, because they're like the rival faction to the church. And his body parts are now all over the world, all across it. Hundreds of them around the globe, and some of them even in space. And the church now has made it their mission to go around the world, get all the parts together, and then build their big robot god. Because that's the thing they want to do. They want to build a big robot. It's the only thing they want to do in life. It's build that big robot.
Don't we all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Big robot's pretty cool. And I'll get a picture of Mekhane in, just so that you know what he looks like. Have to find a right one. There, that's a good one. That's what the church believes Mekhane looks like a big mechanical angel. Pretty awesome,
Thoughtful.
Yeah.
I have to say.
That gives
Eh.
me some dark mechanics vibes.
Yeah, it's basically what they are. They just like to build robots.
Looks like Bible accurate angels.
Yep, that's basically to the extent of what they are. Why do they want to bring Mekhane back? Well, they believe, like I said previously, but going more in depth, that when Mekhane's physical form is rebuilt, is remade, that he will bring apotheosis to Earth, to humanity. That through Mekhane's blessings, humanity will transform into a half machine, half human, like cyborg civilization that will basically begin a new golden age of man. That's all they want to do. They believe that through Mekhane's revival, humanity will finally be able to conquer the galaxy, other solar systems, other races. They will become the dominant race in the universe. That is what they believe will happen. What actually happened, we will get into later, because that's a big part. That's a big part. But spoilers later. So, how the fuck did these people actually get made? What's the history of this church? Who allowed these people to build their big robot? That's what we're gonna be doing today. If you're a big history fan of human history, you're gonna like this one, because the church history spans over lots of different parts of human history. So if any history buffs are watching, this one's for you. Let's get into the start of the church. There technically was a start before in a Chinese dynasty, but I'm skipping over that one because it has nothing really to do with the church. You can look that up yourself if you're really interested. And we will be getting back to it when we talk about another civilization, but not right now. What we do care about is the church's original start, which is in around 1000 to 1200 BC, so around 3000 years ago, originating in Greece, in the Mycenaean Greece, I believe how you pronounce it. And they were known back then as the Mekhanite Empire. They were a highly centralized theocratic state, which means that there was no distinction between politician leaders, religious leaders, military leaders. They were kind of like under one banner, like the Tau are in Warhammer. They're under one banner, no clear leadership. They were operating like this. They were a really fucking big state, one of the biggest states back then, because they mainly controlled the production of various goods, mainly in the metallurgic industry. So they made lots of mechanical parts for early transportation, for ships, and also lots of weapons, because you make those things with metal. Lots of weapons, in fact. They were a really militaristic state, which made them kind of unpopular in other states because, they were hoarding so many weapons that they thought they were kind of like planning something. They never were, because they were just making things because they thought the act of making things was holy and was a prayer to their god. But no one, of course, knew that because crazy religious people. And they were also very big into trading. They had trade routes with Egypt, Assyria, and Canaan, both very, very prominent back then. And they shipped all kinds of weaponry, of technology out to those states to support them. At the same time, making them also a lot more unpopular with other ones because they were only limiting themselves to these three ones and not giving to anyone else. They also were the first where the phrase "the rebuilding" came from. It was never explained what it was, but of course it was the rebuilding of Mekhane that we're talking about. But it was never like their big goal. It was like a side thing back then. So they continued making weapons, shipping them out to these three countries. But over the times, after a long time, they started getting some tension between them and two other civilizations, the Davites and the Sarkics. I'm not going to talk about the Davites. They're a whole different kind of worms. They're just think of it as other civilization from that time. Not important right now. The Sarkics I want to touch on a little bit because they will be important later. The Sarkics are kind of the church's rival faction. They're like the inverse. They believe that machines are weak and that flesh is good. That's the basic thing. They also have their own god. It's called Yaldabaoth. sounds very Lovecraftian, that's because he is. And they are kind of like rivaling each other because like one ideology against another one, stuff like that. Not going deeper now because I want to do a whole episode on the Sarkics soon, and I will get deeper into that later. So, tension between Sarkics and Devotees. They did not like each other, but they never did anything. They had some small scale battles, some small like annoyances, but they never fought any wars. They were holding themselves back just enough. That changed when another civilization from the north, the Adi-Um, I think how you pronounce it. It's an ADI-U, like the German umlaut for U, M. I don't know how you pronounce them. I'm gonna call it Adi-Um because it's easier. Also different kind of worms. Think of them as Nordic faction, just Vikings. Really buff Vikings. That's basically what these people are. And they were like, hibbity hoppity, your countries are my property. And got in there. And so Mekhanites were like, big Viking dudes with big axes coming. We don't want them. And so they had a temporary alliance between the Devotees and the Mekhanites. The Sarkics wouldn't join because for obvious reasons. And then they went to war against the Adi-Um in late 11th century BC, so around 3,000 years ago. And they went to war. Problem is, you're fighting Vikings, meaning lots of ships, lots of naval combat. How do you combat ships when you have like nothing of the sort? The Mekhanites had an idea. Let's build giant fucking robots.
That's as good as any other idea.
And they did it. It's actually an SCP article. They are known as SCP-2406. Let me get a picture in of these. There we go. This is... the file is too big. God damn it. They're so big, not even the picture works. I can't even find like an actual fucking picture of these robot dudes. I can do there. It takes a while because it's a gigantic picture. There. Big ass robots.
Those are they're fucking big.
They look awesome.
Yeah.
And they use these people to fight against the Adi-Um civilization.
Poor Vikings.
Yeah. I mean, think of it. You're like a Viking faction with your small boat, and you see these fuckers. And you have to fight those.
Comes at you.
You have to fight those.
Fucking no. At that point, just go home.
They of course didn't because Vikings, and the Mekhanites won, obviously.
I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah, but they still suffered horrendous losses on both Devotees side and the Mekhanite side because the Adi-Um had these things called actual Nordic gods, and it was kind of difficult to fight those people. So they suffered lots of casualties on both sides. Mekhanites, quote unquote, won, but their losses were too big, and their empire shortly after collapsed completely because many of them were dead.
I really want to watch this prequel anime.
Hey,
I mean,
this will make a damn good show.
I mean, we have giant robots. That's already anime enough.
It's giant robots versus gods. That's
That's
Evangelion 2.4.
Pretty sick. Pretty sick. So, these surviving members of the Mekhane Empire now were at kind of a schism. Some of them said, leave the Empire behind, it's destroyed anyway, we're not gonna be using it for any longer. And the other ones were like, no, we will stay here because this is holy ground and we cannot leave. And so they broke apart. The one group was called the Survivors, and the other group were the residents of a settlement called Amoni, Amoni, and they split apart. The Survivors operated in secrecy. They were hiding from the general public because they were hunted for their technology, because they can make big fucking robots, and the other people want to know how they can make big fucking robots too. And
yeah,
they were not quite interested in letting their technological secrets be unearthed. So they hid away. Their religion was practiced in secrecy. They were on the run basically for a long time. The people of Amoni, they were doing everything to keep the settlement's location hidden from the public, like at all costs, because they needed to recover from a war. And they eventually did. After 400 years of recovering, they finally got back to what they once were. Not quite, they weren't as powerful as back then, but they were getting there. They were regaining their political prowess due to their advancements in technology, because across these 400 years they were still working on new technology, because holy craft and all. And then they started out being in the public eye again. Of course, when that happened, the engineers from Amoni were on high demand, because they were so amazing at building these like almost mythical machines that were not thought to be possible before. Even today, it's not possible what they made fucking 3,000 years ago. And so they were in high demand, the engineers. And they were happy to oblige, because in contrast to how they were previously, they were not militaristic anymore, because it didn't work once. And so they said, no, not doing military again. Instead, they focused all on creating machines to help with other things, like production, agriculture, entertainment, all kinds of these factors. They were now making machines for that. Amoni was totally isolated up until the 1st century BC, up until 100 BC, when the Romans came in their bloodthirsty crusade to conquer the entire world and sieged their settlement. They never got into the holy city, the holy settlement, but they were knocking on their doors a little bit, the Romans, like they did with everybody back then.
That's just what Romans do.
Yeah, that's what they do. So, during this time, gigantic advancements in technology were made. They created the first human-sized, human-operated robots, and it was even hypothesized that they created artificial intelligence for the first time back in 100 BC. They made that shit.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And of course, then people were like, oh fuck yeah, we want that too. And so many attempts on breaking down Amoni and getting their technology were made. All of them almost failed, with the exception of the Hebrews. These people, they came in and burned the fucking thing to the ground. They said no, technology is bad, and burnt it all. They killed almost every single high-ranking engineer that was there. They burnt every single factory and holy place in the entire settlement. They razed the city-state clean. What's basically happened here. That was at the end of the 1st century, at around 100, and around year 100. And back then it was thought that the entire church and the belief of like the broken god and stuff was wiped out, because their only city was burnt down to a crisp. But of course the survivors, the ones that broke up from Amoni, still remained. They still were operating. The only problem is that there was so little, and that they were now hunted relentlessly, because number one, because of the Mekhane Empire, and now the Amoni, the reputation they got. They were hunted down relentlessly. So they were kind of scared on doing any type of reformatting again, or like reforming again, because they will just get raided for a 3rd time and get completely destroyed. So many thousands of years went by with no big change until the 19th century. Because if there's one big thing that happened in the 19th century, it was the Industrial Revolution. Exactly. And so, the church found a gigantic resurgence during the Industrial Revolution. To them, the revolution was a sign that Mekhane's return was imminent. All the technological advancements that humanity made during this time, all of the machines and shit they were creating, they believed that Mekhane had watched over them for a long enough time and were now blessing them to remake him, and that his return would be soon. And so, the first ever instance of an actual church was founded, called the Broken Church, which still operates today. They are very old, the oldest part of the church, and they were, preaching that good word and helping all the other people with the technological advancements that happened during this day. It is actually, this is like me spitballing right now, but there is a theory that every single big technological advancement that was made during this time was actually made by the church. So that like humanity itself was not responsible, it was just the church, but that's nowhere near confirmed. So that's just me spitballing right now. It's a pretty cool theory though. I have to say.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that was true.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if they did, because I mean, you just have to see what they did like 3,000 years ago.
Pretty reasonable assumption.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense. Either that, or they really creamed their pants collectively when they heard about the PC.
That comes later. That comes later. So, the problem is, there was one big debate happening inside the church at that time, because some people found out that they can cut off their arms and replace them with robot arms. And one half of the church was like going, fuck yeah, people, this is exactly what we wanted. This is the thing that Mekhane wants. The other side was, nah, because you made those things. It didn't come from Mekhane himself, so that's like heresy territory right there. And they were kind of fighting over which was right, were body augmentations good, were they bad, blah, 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 blah. Until the part that was for them, that was for the augmentations, split off from the church and made their own kind of sub-religion. They would be known as the Cogwork Orthodox Church, or just the Orthodoxy. I will just know them as the Orthodoxy. These people, they have a similar thing of the church, similar to the church. They believe in Mekhane, they believe in his rebuilding, they believe in machines are holy, etc., etc. But they believe in another concept known as standardization, which means that in order to become holy, in order to become an enlightened, you have to turn yourself into a machine by body augmentations, by replacing your limbs and organs with mechanical parts. These people look absolutely fucking amazing. I have to get a picture of them in real quick. They are like they're like steampunk robot, like cyborg dudes. That's what they look like.
Ooh, that's my awesome jam. That's awesome.
They look great. They're like steampunk robots, like cyborgs. They look great. They look awesome. I love the Orthodoxy's design. Yeah. They're great. Yeah, and that process of augmenting your body through anomalous means, because I don't know how the fuck that works, and the Foundation also doesn't know how that works, so it has to be some kind of like celestial fuckery. It's probably going on there. But that is called remaking yourself. And through this remaking process, you are apparently, quotation marks, able to communicate with Mekhane himself directly. If it ever is like that, it's just hearsay. I don't know. The Foundation doesn't know. We also don't know. Maybe they're just crazy. Probably the latter.
Probably, yeah. Another
funny thing about the Orthodoxy, they have their own slur among the other church members, because with their like whole cyborg thing, they emit like ticking and tapping sounds everywhere they go, and so they're jokingly referred to as tickers by the other members of the church. I think it's really funny.
Yeah.
So, because every single time an Orthodoxy member comes in, you hear them, because they're like ticking, tapping, mechanical piece sounds everywhere, just because they walk, and they have their own little like slur, like clankers. They're just called tickers.
Clankers.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
And the Orthodoxy in the 19th century became the biggest part of the church, and were kind of leading it, so to speak. The leaders of the Orthodoxy are people called the patriarchs. Who they are, we don't know, and how they look like, we also do not know. But what we do know is that they write all of the Holy Scripture for the church. The Holy Scripture is called the Holy Writ, and I'm getting another picture in there because it's so funny to me. It's the version of the Bible, basically. It's their version of the Bible. And this Bible is a combination of holy text and then actual like instruction manual. I don't know why. It's really difficult to read, and I will get a picture in there. This is how a page out of the Holy Writ looks. It is like it is structured in a similar to an instruction manual with similar wording, but the text is just like holy jargon. I love it. It's pretty weird to read because like you're reading like a 101 guide how to build your big robot, and then it's just all religious thing.
And at the end, you have an extra screw and nowhere to put it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's like
they give you a spare part.
it's like an IKEA furniture instruction manual, but holy.
Yeah, exactly.
So exactly like an IKEA furniture instruction manual, but for Swedish
Exactly.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Swedish people. Has to go. Yeah, that's basically what the Holy Writ is. And these patriarchs, they write all of this shit. How they do it, I don't know, but they do it, and that's how it looks. Now come the 20th century. The biggest part of the church from a narrative perspective, and probably the part where we will be, English is hard, where we will be sticking the most, because all of this like previous part, I don't care about that shit. This is the big one. This is the big juicy information right here. 20th century to now. Alright, so during the 20th century, the members of the Orthodoxy found many anomalous mechanical parts, known as broken god artifacts. The church believed, when they found it, that Mekhane's return was imminent. Because it was like happening right fucking now. He was waiting outside of the door and he wants in. So, get on that.
Latvian.
The Broken Church also started their hunt for these artifacts, and then together they searched the world for these pieces. In comes the man, known as Robert Bumaro. I love this man. He is probably the most important figure in the entire church lore and history. Bumaro is number one. He is an incredibly important man who we'll be talking a lot about. Who is he? We don't know. Cryptic like SCP always is. He is a mysterious man who was not part of any church organization originally, but who did practice their religion. Where he came from, the church doesn't quite know. He just appeared one day on this. One day he came back with like 10 or 12 artifacts at once, and they had no idea like how he had the knowledge or the means of doing the hunt so fast. And so they like offered, hey, do you want to join us? And he was like, fuck yeah. And now he's part of the church. But during his time as a member of the church, he started recruiting various different people known as his agents, and he used them to basically alter their bodies through anomalous means and give them anomalous body augmentation, similarly to what the Orthodoxy did. With the only difference is that these agents could actually directly communicate with Mekhane through their minds. There was like a bridge created between your mind and Mekhane's mind. So you would see all these types of crazy visions, and he would speak to you and whisper to you in your sleep, and he would say where the pieces are and what he wants you to do and all this shit. It's awesome.
So exactly what the Orthodoxy tried to do originally.
Exactly what they claimed they were able to do, but what they never were able actually to pull off. And Bumaro did it by himself, and nobody knew how in the fuck he was able to do it, because all he did was like take one guy, disappear like in his office with like a big hammer, and then the man would come out again like half cyborg, being able to talk to like their god, and they were like, whoa, how do you do that? And so the Broken Church then immediately started legalizing body augmentations because they wanted to get some of that shit too, and they were no longer considered heresy, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And so Bumaro started collecting hundreds of these artifacts with his agents because they want to rebuild their big robot. Okay, right now, this is the big one. This is probably like top 3 favorite stories in the entire SCP universe. This right here, what I'm going to be telling you about today. It is the 001 Apotheosis Event of 1942. This is, if you would ask me, what's the 3 biggest events in SCP? This is up there. The only things that are bigger are probably 5000 and the Site-19 containment breach. This is gigantic. And this is like where the bulk of my notes come from just this story. So sit back, grab coffee, grab something to eat. Story time. So, because in order to understand what Bumaro actually did, we have to look into an SCP-001 proposal. Quick heads up on what the 001 proposals are. I mentioned them in the last episode briefly, but I will explain what they are just so that everyone's up to speed. SCP-001, the first SCP ever, is not an actual normal SCP article. It is a collection of proposals made by high-ranking members and staff of the Foundation, who all have their own theories of what 001 can be. Which one is the real one, we don't know, and the Foundation is very keen on keeping it a secret. As some of them are from actual theories, some of them but are actually just hoaxes made up by the Foundation, who are not at all real. And so this is kind of gets really interesting if you look at the 001 thing, because all of them connect to a big part of the universe, with Ouroboros being the one that has the biggest connection to the most parts of the universe. But for example, When Day Breaks has a connection to 179, SCP-179. Keter Duty covers every single Keter SCP in the entire Foundation, at least the Series 1 ones. When the World's Gone Beautiful has a connection to another SCP, blah, blah, blah. All of the proposals are big enough to have their own podcast episode on, so I'll not get into them more. But the Ouroboros proposal is the biggest one by far. It is a proposal that is split up into 4 separate other files. The first being called The Children, the Broken God, Atonement, and the Way It Ends. We will be focusing on the second one, the Broken God, because that is the obviously, judging by the name, the one that interests us the most. For this time, we will probably go back to the other 3 files in a later episode, because they are really important to lots of things in the SCP universe. But going to the Broken God file, I will link the file in the Discord so that if you want to read it later, you can read it, because I will be skipping over lots of amazing dialogue, incredible voiced dialogue, like actual voice actors were hired for this. It's amazing. DJ Cactus, the writer, and Twisted Gears, if you're listening to this, you're gods, all of you. So, but away from bitching or gushing about this shit, let's actually get into the story. So, what is SCP-001? SCP-001 is, and I quote, a collection of anomalous items, formerly a single, massive mechanical entity, assembled by members of the Church of the Broken God in late 1942 near the city of La Paz, Mexico. Items include SCP-217, 1139, 882, and several components of 629. A full list is not available. So, this tells us one thing. Bumaro was actually successful in building Mekhane. He pulled off the impossible and built this thing. And it's pretty terrifying. I have to say, it's pretty fucking scary. First of all, the object class for this one is Maxua, a object class that is only exclusive to this file. In basic terms, it means that the anomaly has been neutralized, but it can be remade again. That's the basic thing it's going on here. Okay. Oh wait. Let's get into the story. The year is 1942, La Paz, Mexico. Robert Bumaro and his followers are on the search for Mekhane's body parts. They found hundreds of pieces all around the world through various means. Some of them located in the European Alps, some of them in the desert of America, and some of them even underwater. But however they did it, they found all of them. With the exception of one, SCP-882, the heart of Mekhane. The one piece that was missing, the one piece that Bumaro searched his life for, was missing. And he was going crazy. He was going mad. They couldn't find it. He couldn't find it. His agents couldn't find it. He was slowly starting to lose hope. In comes a man only known as Ezekiel. Ezekiel is one of Bumaro's closest agents. He is Bumaro's basically his right hand. That's basically what Ezekiel is. And one day he had an idea. He went to Bumaro's office and told him that if we can't find the heart, why don't we try and make one? Bumaro was floored. He was incredibly excited. He never thought that anyone, because he had this idea before, but he would never go through with it. But now that his agents also believed in him, he could pull through and try and create a heart for their broken god. And so he took his big hammer and his tools and went into the production factory for days until he came back out with the made heart of the broken god. He and his agents were excited. They were ecstatic. They were super fucking happy that they finally can make Mekhane whole again. The other followers were not convinced at all. He was not. They were feeling uncomfortable. The heart was raging, like rocking back and forth at an insane speed. It was incredibly loud. Like, not loud in terms of like sound, but loud on your mind. It was like a droning, almost like screaming sound that was constantly emitting from this heart. And they were like saying, Bumaro, man, I'm happy with like the rebuilding and all, but this heart kind of scares me. I'm not feeling too well. Bumaro said, no, you're weak-minded. We will do it anyway. And so they did. Bumaro went into the chamber where all the parts are located and made Mekhane whole again. Question: how do you believe this turned out?
Not
Really
very
shitty.
good.
Let me guess. It all turned to shit real quick.
Mekhane absolutely fucking rampaged through the city of La Paz. He was destroying everything. He was like running on all fours. This gigantic, like house-sized robot was on all fours running through the city, grabbing machines and like breaking them apart and attaching the pieces to his body to make himself larger. He was taking cars, ripping them in half, and like putting them all over his body to make his like legs better. He took generators out of houses to make himself like to power himself more. It was a rampage. And he was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger until he found like this like agricultural like shredder vehicle where you like harvest the crops. He used this and then created like a rib cage where he could shred all the mechanical pieces to like small bits and to like attach them to his body. And soon he started shredding people too. He
Oh.
started
Oh, no.
picking people up, yeeting them into his like shredder ribcage chest, and was grinding them to a like bloody pulp on the side of the street. And once he got bigger, he started grabbing just people, then cars, then houses, then entire pieces of land. He was shoving into his chest, and he was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there was no way to stop him. He was sprinting through the land of the city of La Paz, destroying everything in sight. At the same time, Foundation personnel, a guy known as Commander Mark Peterson, was on their way to Mexico, to another place in Mexico, when their train suddenly stopped a little bit before they reached La Paz, because the train tracks, and so the train stopped and they had to get out. And when they got out, the first thing they saw, of course, was this gigantic robot, now the size of a small mountain, slowly, like not even walking, like dragging itself across the city with like with like fire emanating out of his eyes, mouth, and like chest, which has now become a furnace, where he was shoving landmass and entire villages into it. They saw it and was like, oh no. So they called Director Cornwell, a site director stationed at Site 74, who then alarmed the GOC, the Global Occult Coalition, a basically government-funded organization that wants to destroy anomalies, not contain them, but destroy them. They alarmed them, and then they got their military ready to destroy Mekhane, who was still ravaging throughout the city. I think the Foundation got MTF Unit Nu 7 in there, and the GOC got their own military to fight Mekhane. I want to bring you a little bit of I want to read a small portion of one of the survivors of the La Paz of the Apotheosis Event, who described what he saw or I will post a picture along with it so that you can get to know the scale. Quote: "The mountains crumbled before our own eyes. We saw a figure rising through the smoke, slow and lumbering, but with terrifying momentum. It didn't crawl like a beast or walk like a man, but was propelled forward by the turning of 1,000,000 gears, like an iron centipede. Its body extended upwards into the smoke, higher than we could make out. Within its chest we saw fire, like the furnaces of hell. It came to the mountains north of us, and did not stop or go around, but went through them, and devoured all of it. It reached out with a long, pulsing arm, and pulled an entire village into its maw. I saw men leaping to their death as their homes were swept away into the same inferno as the rest. And it howled, not just through the grinding of the gears and the churning of the machine, but in our minds. I could hear it in my heart, and it was screaming." This is incredibly fucking terrifying. This is SCP at its best, when the story gets under your skin and is incredibly well written. This is another reason why I love this. And this is what it looked like. This is how big he was. I'll get another picture in there from the article so that you can get a better picture of his scale.
That's a big boy.
That's it. That is
Very big
It's a
boy.
huge boy.
he is gigantic.
He's thick.
He is
No.
gigantic.
Like with 3 C's.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Even
4
4.
C's. He's a big man now.
4 C's given.
So, the Foundation and the GOC arrived at Mekhane and fired everything they had at the gigantic mechanical monster, basically now. They bombed the shit out of it, used napalm, it's a large amount of tanks and gunfire, but it all did not work, because you're fighting like a literal mountain. You're fighting Mount Everest now. You're not winning. You're not destroying that shit. But, luckily, something else happened. Something entirely different. Something that not even the Foundation itself could explain for many years. I will play an audio file now. hear what happened. Terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit.
Really, really unsettling. So, what happened? Well, on that fateful day of 1942, something came to the Foundation's aid. It was another SCP entirely. Because at around 15 seconds into the audio file, the clouds directly above Mekhane started to part, and SCP-2399 is visible. A gigantic, like, universal weapon, like a big space laser, basically, appeared in the sky and shot a huge blue laser directly at Mekhane. And it got demolished. It absolutely eviscerated everything in like a 200-meter radius. And then, when work was done, the SCP-2399 left. It was yeeting back into space, and people had no fucking idea where it came from. Of course, the Foundation back then were like, what the hell? What fucking happened? And the church was silent. Not a word from the churchgoers about what happened. So, Mekhane was destroyed by SCP-2399. His parts were once again scattered all across the world in the gigantic explosion that happened, and the fight is over. The Apotheosis Event of 1942 is probably one of the most catastrophic events, like at least in like a realistic department. There are way worse events in SCP, but it's a really bad one. Almost the entire city of La Paz was completely destroyed. Over 2 million people died during Mekhane's ravage. The entire city had to be amneticized. Every single person had their memory wiped completely. Almost entire Mexico, like La Paz and the surrounding cities, were completely amneticized by the Foundation. It was one of, if not the largest use of amnetics to date. And the Foundation also rebuilt the city from the ground up in order to cover up what happened. It was a gigantic operation that thankfully worked. If it didn't work, they had some explaining to do.
Yeah, looking at the article, it even caused the Gulf of California.
Yeah, but gigantic area of effect on that one.
Fuck.
I mean, a whole city got wiped out by a really thick robot
Yeah.
boy.
Not just a city, rather large area as well.
Yeah, that's the thing on the
Yeah.
article. What was destroyed? This entire part
Yeah,
was
that's
eviscerated.
big.
Not all of it. Most of it was terraformed by the Foundation to cover shit up and stuff. But that's a big area of effect. What happened to all the people involved? Commander Mark Pedersen and Director Cornwell started writing this very article that I am reading, that I am getting this information of. The other members of the GOC were took the credit for destroying Mekhane, which is a big fucking lie, but they did it. They claimed that they were able to destroy Mekhane, and not the big ass space laser that no one know came from. So, SCP-882, the heart of it's not SCP-882. It's the heart. 882 is actually the true heart that is in Foundation custody right now. The heart was dumped into the ocean by a different group of Foundation personnel. But before they went and dumped the heart into the ocean, they saw a small plaque, like a small plaque with with an engraving on the bottom of the heart. The plaque read, "Property of the factory."
Oh fuck.
If you know what the factory is, this will be obvious as to why this all happened. If you don't,
Fucking
wait
fairies.
wait for our factory episode. I'll be going back to that one. That's something I want to leave as a mystery in here.
Again.
All right, so the heart was dumped into the ocean. The GOC took credit for the kill. Foundation covered all of it up. What did the church do? That's the big question here. After the Apotheosis Event, every single activity of the Church of the Broken God ceased for 3 years. They stopped operating for 3 straight years. From 1943 to 1946. Nothing. Not a word from them. Not even like a member in public. Nothing. Up until 1946, when they reformed as the Church of the Broken God with Robert Bumaro as their leader. He was now known as His Holiness Robert Bumaro, Builder of the Broken God. That is his actual title.
I mean,
A bit of a
yeah.
mouthful.
And
Understandable.
it seems like they didn't learn shit because they are working on a second assembly currently.
Oh, great.
This time, Bumaro wants to find the actual true heart, which is SCP-882, to finish Mekhane, and he has been working on that for this time. And now we're in current day. But before I'll stop, the church did something a lot different, and this is gonna be setting up, I believe, for future church lore that we will be getting. I even have a little theory at the end stating what will happen probably with the lore. But what did they do? After coming back in 1946, they legalized body augmentations by his hand, by Bumaro's hand, in order to create these new people. I'm getting a picture in there now because they look absolutely fucking baller now. Because there's lots of pictures that depict what the church looks like now, and I will post it right here if I can actually find a picture that is not too large for Discord. There it is. That's how they look now.
Oh, hell yeah.
The one in the middle is Bumaro. The one on the left with the robot mask is Ezekiel, and the one on the right is I don't know. That's how they look now. They look fucking baller as shit.
They look awesome.
They look insane.
Yeah.
This is
This is
an anime I would watch.
yeah, and that is how
Definitely.
they look now. I'll get some more pictures in so that you have some more reference of some things they do. That's how some of the people look, and that's one of their priests. That's how one of their priests look. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Bumaro himself is depicted in lots of different ways. I've memed in the last episode that he often is depicted as a female, and that's because he has you can see the picture, really long white hair, and the person who drew the first picture I sent also drew Bumaro himself once. This is the picture she drew, and that is why everyone says that Bumaro is a female, because of that picture.
Yeah, understandable.
That's because everyone memes on him that Bumaro is actually a female, but he's not. And I don't like the thought of him being a female. I'll get the fucking picture from the 001 article in, because that's how Bumaro looks now. That's how he looked in 1942. That's how he looked in 1942. This is the same guy. This is the same.
That's hell of a transformation.
I mean, that's a glow up if I ever saw one.
That is how he looks now. So, memeing aside, what is the church up to now? Right now, the Bumaro is actively searching for Mekhane's body parts to start his second rebuilding. But with the change that Bumaro wants to find the true heart this time. The true heart is SCP-882, which is currently in Foundation containment, and so he will not be getting that anytime soon. What do the other church members do? The current church members are focusing on reclaiming an area known as SCP-2217. I will explain it quickly. SCP-2217, I will get the article in there, is a beach on a Greek island, which the name of course has been redacted, because of course. And on this island, various different weird things start happening. The sand of that beach is composed of small, like, calcium and silicon compounds, like small metal pieces are in the sand. And on that island, there's lots of weird things going on. There is dead sea life, dead fish constantly being swept onto the shore. There is erosion. There are lightning storms, weather conditions, seemingly way too much than normal. And but the most important thing is that over the course of its time, the SCP Foundation has found lots of different devices and structures that have been created, quote unquote, at this beach. The first one are several forms of machinery, ranging from simple like clocks to complex robots, which have been buried under the sand. The other one is jewelry from sea glass and other waste products. And the third one is a big city right below the beach. The city of Kythera. 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 And it's an ancient Greek city which is believed to be the current holy ground for the Church of the Broken God, and one of their main operating bases. The Foundation has tried to secure that city, but because of relentless attacks from the Church and with negotiations from Bumaro himself, they have given the Church the right to normally be in the city, but of course Foundation agents watching them. They have watchtowers set up where they can see the peripherals of the city so that they don't do anything fucky.
Oh, nice of them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they because the Church in little real talk right now. I like the Church because they're not primarily evil. Lots of things in SCP is evil, horrible, death, murder, slaughter, but the Church isn't evil per se. They have their ideology and they just want humanity to be better, to be a better race. Their means of getting humanity to that point are questionable, but they have a point. They actually have a point. And you can't really fault them for wanting good things for humanity. So, SCP Foundation has given them the right to be in that city. The problem is that due to this city being a holy ground, it has recently been attacked by the Sarkic cults. The Sarkics have started a raid on a Foundation containment site in Russia, extracting samples of SCP-610, which we will be talking about more when we talk about the Sarkic cults. That is the flesh it hates. I've mentioned in the last episode.
No.
Yeah, it's disgusting, but I will be getting
Yeah.
more into it when we get into the Sarkics. They got some samples of the flesh it hates. I will be posting it in the Discord because I want you to be even more disgusted by it. Exactly, yeah. That's the flesh it hates. That's the flesh it hates. These are humans that have been infected by the flesh that hates. They are now have been turned into these fleshy abomination creatures.
Nope.
Looking very
which are believed
prophet-like.
by the Sarkics to be holy
I
people.
vote for the
By the
Church
way,
of the Broken
They
God.
believe
Fuck
that
these
these
guys.
people are the holy messiahs of the religion.
I'd rather
These
go
guys.
through Apotheosis than this.
So, Sarkics raided Foundation containment site, got 610 samples. And they used these 610 samples to create like warriors, like flesh warriors basically, and they attacked the holy city of Kifra. And of course, the church was trying to fend them off for years, but almost always failed. They were winning like by just like this tiniest amount. And so, the church actually asked the Foundation for a temporary alliance in exchange for special technology. They agreed. Fun fact, the technology that the church gave the Foundation is, among other things, is the cyborg enhancements that Samsara has. So,
yeah,
so the church is kind of responsible for the creation of Samsara, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Pretty neat.
The pieces, they're fitting. So, and they're currently trying to stop the Sarkics from getting to that holy city of Kifra because it will usher in an event known as the XK610 Omega event. An XK event is an end of the world scenario. So, not good. not
Absolutely.
sound good.
it is not good at all. And so they are trying to stop the Sarkics from doing whatever the fuck they're doing. At the same time, the Foundation also tried to figure out what that fucking space laser was that killed Mekhane in 1942. They found it. It is SCP-2399, a gigantic weapons array located in the big red spot next to Jupiter, way in the far reaches of space. The weapons array is currently repairing itself, and it has currently finished 95% of their repairs. The Foundation wants to shut down all repairs before it reaches 75% completion, because they believe that then something terrible will happen. It is never quite specified what that terrible thing is. And they have tried to destroy this thing many times. It does not work because there are like multiple drones around the weapons array system that cast like a protective energy field that protects them from any type of modern human or even anomalous fire that happens. And they currently have no way to stop it from charging. What they did, however, do is construct a satellite array around SCP-2399, which intercepts communications that the SCP gains from somewhere. We don't know where these come from. And we have 5 specific logs that were snatched up by the Foundation. I'll read out all of them. 1971, unit is damaged, commencing repairs. 1985, updating orders, maintain position, commencing repairs. 1985, period of radio silence as the barrier array is established. The array that like cancels out the force field a little bit. 1996, unit is out of range. Proceeds to planet free in system coordinates redacted. Repairs commencing. 2015, unit is out of range of target. Proceed to planet free in system coordinates redacted. Priority is target. Cease repairs. That's the last thing they found. There is actually a link at the word target that links to the Apotheosis Event, to that file.
Oh.
So, whatever will happen when that thing is finished repairing, it has something to do with what happened in 1942. This is where my theory comes in. This is me completely spitballing and theorizing right now. None of this is confirmed, but I believe that with all the pieces that are around the wiki, I have like a solid interpretation of what I think will happen. So, the Foundation hypothesizes that it will take around 25 years until SCP-2399 is finished repairing. The message was received in 2015, and the article was written in 2017. 17 plus 25 is 42. 42 is exactly 100 years after the Apotheosis Event of 1942. What will happen in that year? Bumaro will, in my opinion, find the true heart and get it out of Foundation custody and rebuild Mekhane for a second time. At the same time, because SCP-2399 is somehow linked to Mekhane, otherwise it wouldn't be linking to that Apotheosis file from earlier. Also, at the end of the Apotheosis file, there is one man, a unknown follower of the church, who has been calling the part of Mekhane that was assembled by the church and SCP-2399 the monster and the destroyer. So these are obviously linked. What happens, in my opinion, is that the target that SCP-2399 is prioritizing is Mekhane. And when he will be rebuilt, the SCP-2399 will basically combine with Mekhane to create him to fully rebuild his physical form. At the same time, because of Mekhane's reassembly, the Sarkic cults will start attacking Kithra once more in order to revive their own god. Because it is currently hypothesized that Yaldabaoth lies below Kithra, and that's why they want to attack the city. If we believe that, in 2042, when Mekhane is rebuilt, the Sarkics will go to Kithra and revive Yaldabaoth using SCP-610. And then we have a war on our hands. We have both gods of both opposite religions back again. And that is disastrous for our world and probably the entire universe. Because how do you stop those two? And that's why the Foundation is currently trying to, number one, get 610 out of Sarkic hands. And secondly, try to stop SCP-2399 from repairing itself. Because they know that's gonna happen, and that they can't do shit if these two gods will get revived. That is what I think will happen. We have no other lore right now, although I've heard that Dr. Gears, the guy who made the entire church, is working on new lore, which I'm very excited about. He's working on it for the SCP-6000 series of articles. And I'm excited. I'm excited what will happen in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it.
CP 6000 already.
Yeah, probably.
We haven't even finished 5000.
I also haven't finished. I'm not even trying to finish these. 5000 is almost done. Yeah, only like 100.
Wait, really?
Only like 100 remain.
That fast?
That fast, yeah.
Didn't like the 5000, I guess, series start like a year ago?
5000. We can see when it was uploaded. The original 5000 article. Yeah, it was summer 2020.
The fuck?
Damn, that's
Oh wow.
less than a year.
Yeah, people had lots of time to write shit, and so they wrote a lot of shit.
I mean,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm quite excited.
2020 was a slow year.
Yeah, no, I'm quite
Yeah.
excited for what the
Holy fuck, that's
6000 series will bring. I'm quite excited. And that's the church. That's the history of the church and why we shouldn't let them build their big robot.
No.
So-
They should build their big robots if that means the flesh that hates doesn't do its thing.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
exist.
Yeah, I'd much rather be chomped up by their big robot than the flesh that hates, and its alternative title, which is
Yeah.
even worse.
It's the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you once you get infected with 610, you will still feel like everything. You will like,
Oh,
feel
God.
you will
Ugh.
feel like your
Yeah.
skin falling off you and your flesh decomposing. It's really nasty.
That's even worse than I thought.
It is
That's
really
not poggers.
That is in fact not.
That's absolutely not
At least I'm
poggers.
not wholesome 100 Keanu Changas moment. Oh, fuck. You have two options. How does that mean? progress to Mekhane or regress to Yabadath.
Yeah,
Yaldabaoth.
yeah. You either turn into a car or return to turn to a fleshy fucking substance.
I'll take car.
Car.
Both options are not particularly great,
Yeah.
but at least the
No,
church doesn't
no,
want, like
no.
at least the church doesn't want like humanity to die. That's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, no. Car. Absolutely
Progress to
car.
car or return to flesh.
Going full on car.
All
I
right.
don't care.
Any questions before I wrap this up?
I mean,
I can't think of anything right now because
Uh,
there's so much information about it. Like,
There's a lot of them. The church is pretty
Yeah.
big. The church, and I skipped a lot of stuff. I skipped the entire Shah culture group stuff at the very beginning because that was technically how it started, man. I don't care. I skipped almost all of the tales because you can read those yourself. They're really well written. They're amazingly well made, but I'll not comb through hundreds of tales.
Yeah. There are 2
To-
pages of them.
Get all the details. Yeah, nah. I already have the fucking Apotheosis Event to cover, and that one already was big.
yeah.
holy fuck.
Yeah. All right. So that's basically it. That is the Church of the Broken God in a sort of nutshell. It's still gonna take an hour, but that is what the church is. Not sure what we'll do for the next one. I'll probably figure something out. I don't want to do Sarkic cults just now because I want to focus on like less of a. I don't want to fill like this podcast with like group of interest after group of interest after, you know what I mean. So maybe I'll figure something out for next time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
SCPs. Like wholesome SCPs. I don't know.
I'll figure something out. I'll figure something out.
Yeah, probably do.
All right. That's it. Thank you all so much for listening. If you want to get updates on new episodes or see me memeing all day, you can follow me on Twitter. Link in the description below, and I will also leave all the socials for the other people here all down below. And of course, every single artwork and art piece and all of the things that we use in this video and in the video version of this podcast is all linked down below. So thank you all so much for listening, and see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.